got some new plants. This is cilantro, and then we also bought some sweet mint, and we are also today we're planting some lemon seeds from some lemons from my dad's garden, and we are planting in here some chili pepper seeds that my husband took out of some chili peppers about 2 days ago now. So we've just been trying to germinate those. So those are about ready to be planted. And then we took a clipping of basil from my one plant, and we're gonna attempt to start up another basil plant here. Okay, so we picked up some pots from Walmart. This pot has like a nice little irrigation system inside of it so that the water doesn't all pool at the bottom and cause root rot. So we got about 3 of these, I believe. And then we're gonna use some smaller ones for the smaller plants. So I'm just gonna begin, I'm gonna start with the cilantro, I guess. I'll start with the cilantro. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put some potting soil in here. I just used the Miracle-Gro Performance Organics. It's in a black bag. Just as starter potting soil. And then with the lemon seeds, I'm actually gonna amend the soil a little bit to make it better for citrus plants. And then for the cilantro, I'm gonna use this flower and vegetable fertilizer. And I'm just going to just sprinkle a little bit in there. Do that. Like that. And then I'm gonna go ahead and add some more soil. And you just kind of mix it in there. I like to use my hands because I'm weird like that. So I'm just going to kind of mix it up. We're going to kind of look at our plant and kind of gauge how we want it to sit in here. So maybe a little bit more soil. Like that. Okay, so that looks pretty good. So now we're actually going to water the soil first before we put the plant into it, and that kind of helps it so that you don't oversaturate the plant right when you repot it. Get the soil nice and wet, and then I kind of just work it through with my hands. It gets very messy. Of course, you can always use gloves if you don't like the feeling of the soil, but I actually prefer it. So see, it's not super wet, it's just kind of like the consistency of Oreo crumbles, I guess. But you don't want it too damp because you're still going to add water to it after you put the plant in. Okay, so that looks about pretty good. And then I'm going to take my plant, and how you repot is you just put it to the side here, and then you start kind of breaking up the roots around the bottom, and you're just going to kind of hold the plant at the top, dump it over, and then pull it out. So this plant looks pretty root bound. That's typically how it is when you get a plant from the store like this. That means that they're ready for a bigger pot. So I just like to kind of, you're not going to hurt the plant any, you just kind of take the roots of it and just kind of massage them with your hands, break them up, let them loose so that they can grow. And then once you have that looks pretty good, we're gonna go ahead and stick it in our pot here like that. And then we're gonna just start adding some soil around it. A little bit more. Okay, that looks pretty good. And we'll just kind of break up the big chunks here. Okay. Kind of pull this apart. The process is basically going to be about the same. I'm just going to start filling my pot here with some soil. Like that. And then we're going to go ahead and add the fertilizer in. Now on the fertilizer, you probably want to do it, I don't know, maybe every 3 months or so. You don't want to overdo the fertilizer, because then it'll change the balance of the soil too much. But it kind of just helps it get started. And then we're going to kind of gauge how much more soil we need to put in by just sticking our plant there. That's probably about good for now. I'm just going to kind of dig a well here and pour water in. So I've got my water here, and I'm just going to start pouring it in. Good. I'm going to mix it up again with my hands. So that looks pretty good. So I'm just going to kind of flatten it up a little bit and then make like a little well in there. And then I'm going to take my plant, and it's the same process as we did before. You just squeeze the bottom of it here. And then you grab the plant, and then you just kind of pull it off there like that. And again, we're just going to massage the roots and kind of break them up a little bit. Don't worry, you're not going to hurt the plant. Just like that. And then you can even pull off some of it like that. So this one looks pretty good. So now we're going to actually just stick it in our pot like this. Then I'm going to start putting some soil around it. You want to kind of try to be a little careful and not get soil on the leaves, because it could end up, if you don't wash it off, it could end up burning the plant. So and you just kind of want to push it down and then kind of pat around it. So that looks pretty good, and you can see it's flush with the plant, so it's not really poking up that much. So that's what you want. And then we're just going to water it. So that looks pretty good there. Okay, and this one's also going to go in the shade next to the cilantro. Just like that. Okay, so for our next plant, we're going to plant the basil. And this one we're going to do in our small potter plant. We're just going to reuse some of the ones that the other herbs came in. So I'm just going to do the same exact process. I'm going to go ahead and add our fertilizer. And there we go. I'm just going to kind of mix the soil around. Some water in here, just a little bit, because this is a really small pot. And then we're going to kind of mush it up like we did before. So that looks pretty good. And now we're just going to kind of make like a little hole in it, because you want the roots to be able to have enough room to go down. So we're actually going to just put a little hole in it like that. And then we're going to start filling it up. So that looks pretty good, actually. You can kind of see the plant. The roots are definitely covered. Just add a little bit more on top here. There we go. So that looks pretty good. That smells really good too. Now we're going to water it. So I just lift the leaf up. some water in and kind of let it go down. And I'm gonna water it again. You don't want to do it too much because it is a really small pot, so and that should be pretty good. Now this is gonna get full sun, so we're actually gonna put it up here next to our other basil plant. So for my next plant, we're gonna actually do the lemon seeds, and we're gonna also use another small pot to start with. Seeds do typically do better in smaller pots anyways, which is why they come like that in the superstore. So I'm just gonna start putting my soil in. Yes, I'm making a mess. It's okay, I have a broom. And this one we're gonna do a little bit differently because we're actually gonna put this citrus food in it, in the soil. Here. We're gonna add that to the soil, so that's like its own fertilizer. Okay, so now we're just going to use some of our citrus fertilizer. And it says on the bag to use for 1 to 2 feet of plant, use about 3 tablespoons. We're just using this as a starter seed. So I'm just going to take a little bit of it, maybe like a tablespoon worth, and just kind of do that with it. It's really interesting if you look at it. It's like different colors. Very interesting citrus food. So I'm just going to take a little bit and do that. That's probably good. Then we're just going to kind of mix it in the soil like that. And then I'm going to add a little bit more soil to it. And I believe it said to plant the seeds about 1/2 inch into the soil, so that's probably good like that. And then we're just going to take our seeds, which I've been drying out for about a day now, and we're just going to kind of just stick them in there. Actually, I'll do it like this. We'll just kind of push it down lightly in the soil, and then we'll do it again with the next one. Push it down lightly into the soil, and we're going to repeat the process until all of the seeds are planted. So now I'm just going to cover it with a little bit more soil, like that. And there we go. And then we just water it. And then if you can see it coming off the bottom, that's a good sign. That means that you've gone all the way through with the water. And then this one's going to go up on the top here as well. So we'll just put this one right here. Okay, so now finally we are going to plant our chili pepper seeds. So I'm just going to start by, again, putting the soil at the bottom. And this one's going to be a little bit different too. We are going to use the same fertilizer that we did with the herbs, but we're going to kind of amend the soil in a little bit of a different way. So I'm going to go ahead and put this soil. There's about maybe 1.5 inches of soil in there. And then I'm going to just start putting a little bit of this in there. Like that. Now the interesting thing about peppers is they like sulfur. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to end up actually putting in some matchsticks that I got. I used these with the bell peppers as well, and they worked really well. So what you do is you just take about maybe 4 matchsticks and you just stick it in the soil like that till about it goes into the bottom. And we're gonna do about 4 of them in here. Oops, it's upside down. See, so you can kind of see what I'm doing here. So that's about good. And then we are going to put more soil on the top, like this. Okay. And then I'm going to take my seeds. So now we're about an inch from the top. So I'm going to take my seeds and I'm just going to start sprinkling them on the soil. There's a lot of seeds here. I'm probably not going to plant all of them just because you don't want overcrowding in one pot. So I'll just plant a few of them. And maybe one more. Okay, so there we have our seeds. And then I'm going to add some more soil on top. And that's probably good. Then all we have to do is add some water. And a little bit more, and that's probably good. And then we see some water coming off the bottom, so you know it's thoroughly watered. And then we're gonna put this up in the sun as well. So this one can go over here with the edger. That's our gardening for the day. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please hit subscribe and comment down below for more gardening videos.